The oldest religious buildings discovered in Polonnaruwa, the medieval capital of Sri Lanka, date back to the 8th–9th centuries. They are directly related to Theravada Buddhism, the main religious tradition practiced by sinhales majority of the island's population, as well as Shivaist cults practiced by Tamil minority. Paradoxically, Polonnaruwa owes the number and variety of its architectural structures because of the strengthening of the South Indian Chola dynasty, which created its sovereign empire by the beginning of 11th century. After the invasion of Sri Lanka by the Chola Emperor Rajaraja I and the fall of the Anuradhapura kingdom in 1017, the entire northern part of the island was annexed by the Chola possessions and was considered by the new Tamil rulers as their viceroyalty. The capital was moved from the destroyed Anuradhapura to Polonnaruwa and renamed to Jantamangalam. Construction at Jantamangalam began immediately after it acquired the capital status. At the behest of Rajaraja was built the Shivaist temple Vanavan Mahadevishwaram, which has survived to this day and is known as Shiva Devala. About 3 years later, the sinhales ruler Vijayabahu I of the Ruhuna kingdom in southern Sri Lanka managed the agreements through intrigues and created a coalition with the Pandya dynasty and the Burmese rulers with the goal of defeating Chola. In the subsequent military campaign, Vijayabahu surrounded Polonnaruwa on 3 sides and after a 7-month siege captured the city. Tamils were unable to reinforce since the ports on the coast were already controlled by sinhales, and the main forces of Cholas were involved in the border clashes with Pandyas. The retreat of Tamil troops into the continent led to the unification of the old lands of the island into the state of Tambapani, with its capital in Polonnaruwa. After completing the process of unification of the country, Vijayabahu, however, didn't yet get sufficient resources to start large-scale projects of the construction, defensive and religious buildings in both capitals. Instead, he had to restore dilapidated irrigation facilities and reservoirs, with the help of which functions the entire rice-growing system of the island. The unified Sinhala state of Tambapani, created by Vijayabahu through military force, but unsecured by succession to the throne in all territories of Sri Lanka, turned out to be unstable. Already during the reign of his nephew Vikramabahu, the island was again divided into 3 kingdoms: Rajaraja, Dakshinadesha and the kingdom of Ruhuna. Parakranbahu was an outstanding statesman of his era. Under his rule was carried out military reform. State support for Theravada followers increased, and were waged successful military campaigns against the Burmese rulers Naratu, king of the state of Bagad, as well as the rulers of Pandya and Chola dynasties. Parakranbahu's main field of activity was construction. Under his rule, Polonnaruwa received most of the religious monuments and hydrotechnical structures that have survived to this day. Parakrambahu water reservoir, literally means Sea of Parakrambahu, supplied water to the 7-story king's palace and filled the luxurious royal pool called Kumara Pakhuna. Galvihari complex is an outstanding example of original medieval Sri Lankan sculpture, the result of centuries of evolution of artistic solutions, which led to the emergence of canonical forms. The very tradition of creating Buddha statues originated in Sri Lanka independently, as several centuries before such statues became widespread in neighboring India. The figure of a giant Buddha reclining in Parinirvana and the adjacent statues of Ananda standing at the head of it, together with another Buddha statue sitting in deep meditation, represents an example of authentic Sri Lankan art school, noticeably standing out among the plastic art common in the south and central India. On the territory where once was medieval city of Polonnaruwa, located a group of archeological objects belonging to different eras, so-called Sacred Square or Dala de Maluba. It includes numerous Buddhist structures: Watadage, Atadage, Hetadage, Tuparama Pilimak, Oth Pilimaya, Nissanka Lata Mandapa, the famous stone book Galpota, the Stupa Satmahal Prasadeya, the statue of Bodhisattva, and a number of other artifacts and ruins, some of which have not yet been identified. The majestic palace, built by the King Parakramabahu I, originally had 7 floors and, as legend tells us, contains 1,000 rooms. Today one can see the massive walls more than a meter thick and about 9 meters high, as well as the lower half of the main staircase that led to the upper floors. Inside the building there are molten bricks of the walls, left over from the Great Fire caused by Tamil invaders in the end of Polonnaruwa era. Around the main palace are the ruins of other buildings, where high-rank officials, guards and servants lived. The main part of the entire structure and the all upper floors were made from wood and haven't survived to this day. Kumara is mentioned in one of the 2 most famous Sri Lankan chronicles, Kulavamsa, that means small chronicle, written by Buddhist monks from the 4th to 18th century. At the time of Parakranbahu it was called Sila Pakarani and used for bathing concubines and courtiers. Water enters the pool from the western side through the 2 pipes shaped like the head of the mythical creature's Makaran. On the eastern side of the pool, a stone water seal serves as a valve and drain exit for the used water. In the center of the structure is a lotus-shaped elevation that serves as a resting place. Next to the pool are the remains of the changing room, with a molded pedestal and steps decorated with a semicircular moonstone. The oldest of the older objects of the sacred square is apparently Water Dagger, a structure built in the 7th or 8th century, which is not a temple in the common meaning of this word, but a sanctuary where the tooth of Buddha was supposedly kept. Water Dagger belongs to a type of building called Chetyakhara, which literally means house of the stupa. Rows of concentric columns inside and outside of the structure once supported a wooden roof that sheltered the statues of Buddha and altars for offerings during the rainy season. Sri Lankan chronicles contain a reference to round house of a Buddha relic built by Parakranbahu the Great, but it's not entirely clear whether this refers to Water Dagger. At the very least, it could be assumed that under Parakranbahu rule, the original building was extensively rebuilt. Water Dagger is another Buddhist shrine where was supposedly kept the relic of Lord Buddha's tooth. Water Dagger is larger and better preserved than the older Water Dagger. There was found inscriptions in medieval dialect of sinhales language and a moonstone with an unusual ornament not typical for Buddhist symbolism. Seven-turret stupas at Mahal Prasade, that literally means seven-story palace, is notably different from traditional Sri Lankan stupas with a hemispherical dome, an almost cubic reliquary, and the distinctive spire with the 7 rings on the top. Similar multi-turret stupas are found in Thailand as well as in Cambodia. The purpose and the initiate of the construction of the Sat Mahal Prasade is still unknown. Supposedly it was built by Khmer craftsmen in the 12th century. Pablo Vihara, the more traditional shaped stupa, located a few hundred meters north of the sacred square. It's assumed that Pablo Vihara was built in the 12th century due to the order of the Queen Rupavati, one of the wives of King Parakramabahu. The upper part of the spire of the stupa was destroyed in ancient times, and in relatively recent times robbers made holes in the outer counter of the main volume. Mahavamsa Chronicle repeatedly mentions the majestic ceremonies of laying such stupas, in which the entire royal court took part, high officials, numerous relatives of the king, wives, concubines and guards. Delegations of foreign ambassadors were also present, arriving even from Parthia. As a result of research carried out at the beginning of the 20th century, at least 14 religious buildings called kovils of varying degrees of preservation was found. For the most part they are dedicated to Shiva, with the exception of a few dedicated to Vishnu. During the occupation of Sri Lanka by the army of the Tamil Chola dynasty in 1017–1070, many shrines dedicated to Hindu gods were built on the island. Polonnaruwa served to the invaders as an administrative center, and the most of these Hindu shrines were built in the capital. It is still not entirely clear what part of these kovils was built as a result of Chola occupation, and which appeared later as a result of the invasion of Indian king Kalinga Magha in the beginning of the 13th century. Sainik Vihara, that literally means stupa decorated by precious stones, is probably one of the oldest monastic complexes in Polonnaruwa. Expert believes that the stupa and two buildings called image houses appeared already in the 8th century. The closest to the stupa image house has 3 standing Buddha images and 1 in sitting position. The other image house, relatively small in size, and has only 1 rock-carved Buddha statue. Design of the stupa looks different from the later structures of this kind. It's installed on a massive platform and doesn't have any spire or top. The platform is decorated around perimeter with the relief terracotta plaques depicted sitting lines. In all likelihood, stupas of this shape were the first religious structures built by the followers of Lord Buddha's teachings in Sri Lanka.